tiles are very popular right now. They're showing up everywhere in design trends. They look amazing, but they can be a little bit tricky to install. So today I'm going to go ahead and show you how to install cement tiles the right way so you won't have any problems. When you first receive your box of cement tiles, you're going to want to pull them out and touch them. But take a minute to wash your hands because cement tiles are extremely absorbent and can absorb oils and stains really easily. Cement tiles aren't pre-sealed, so it's important to protect them before you seal them. Just like when you paint a room, you'll get the best results if you take the time to prep your space before you begin. Before laying tiles on your floor, you must put down a substrate to prevent future flexing that can lead to cracks in your grout or worse in your tiles. Typically, tile installers will use cement backer board, but because the cement tiles I'm using are so thick, I chose to use an uncoupling mat to reduce the finished floor thickness. Whichever substrate you use, be sure to follow the manufacturer's installation instructions carefully. Next, find the center of your room and mark perfectly perpendicular guidelines to use for laying out your tiles. After finding the center of the room, now I've gone ahead and I've laid out my tiles to kind of figure out where the cut tiles are going to fall, and I'm making any tile adjustments now before I mix up the thin set mortar. One of the most important tips for working with cement tiles is to soak them in water before installation. Allow them to soak for at least 30 seconds to a minute before you install them. Starting from the center of your room, apply the thin set to a small area and use a 1/2 inch notch trowel to comb the thin set. Avoid the temptation to lay more than 4 tiles at once. After your first small group of tiles are set, insert the spacers. Then check them all to make sure that all the tiles are level and they're all at the same height. Then immediately clean off any thin set or any haze that's on your tiles. Remember what I said about them being very porous. Now you can move on to installing the next small grouping. Periodically check to make sure that your tiles are lined up with each other and that there are no lips between any of the tiles. After all your tiles are installed, block off the room and keep off those tiles for at least 24 hours. Now that the tiles are set and the mortar has cured overnight, I'm going to go ahead and remove the spacers. And then I'm going to go ahead and buff the tile just real lightly to get off any of the surface debris. I'm using a very soft pad, but you can also use just a soft cloth. And I'm just going to buff off anywhere where there's kind of a haze from the water that I used yesterday. I'm going to do this before I seal it because everything has to be perfectly clean before we seal the tile. Now that I've buffed the floors, I'm going to go ahead and just give them a quick sweep off, and then I've actually already swept it. Then I'm going to go ahead and I have a bucket of clean water with just like a drop or two. Yeah, maybe a little too much soap. I'll be right back. Yeah, that's much better. So now I'm going to go ahead and just wipe off the floors one final time to get them clean and let them dry before we seal them. Right now I kind of feel a little bit like Cinderella. Yeah. Someday maybe my prince will come. We've arrived at the most important step when dealing with cement tiles. Make sure your tiles, and the thin set for that matter, are completely dry. You must seal the tiles before grouting them. Use a penetrating sealer made for porous stone or cement tiles. Apply the sealant in thin coats and remove any excess sealant off the tiles before it dries. Allow the sealant to dry completely before applying the next coat, and be prepared to apply many coats before your cement tiles are fully sealed. Personally, my tiles needed 5 coats to seal them, then I had to wait another 24 hours for the sealant to fully cure before grouting. To make sure your tiles are completely sealed, drip water onto the tiles. If the water beads up, you can proceed to grouting. If it absorbs into the tiles, add another layer of sealant and try the water test again later. If your tiles are fully sealed, wait 24 hours before grouting. When I grout, I like to float my grout in a bucket of ice water to slow down the setting action of my grout. Go ahead and load up your float with freshly mixed grout. Holding your grout float at a 45-degree angle from the floor, spread the grout across the gaps between the tiles in a diagonal motion. Only work in small 3 to 4 square foot areas. Then scrape any excess grout off the tiles using a clean grout float. Immediately wipe off any excess grout using a clean, damp sponge. Wring out and refresh your sponge with clean water frequently. It is imperative to get all the excess grout off the tiles or you risk the grout staining them. Go ahead and move on to the next section, but check back on the previous sections and buff off any haze with a dry rag. After the grout has cured, clean your floors with a pH-neutral mild detergent. Then apply one final coat of penetrating sealer. A new coat of sealer should be applied every 6 to 12 months. To protect your new beautiful cement tile floors, clean up any spills immediately. Never leave anything sitting on the floor that could stain or scratch your tiles.
Shaving's not so bad. I don't know what people complain about.